Welcome to the exercise called the Wheel of Life. Today, one of the things I hope to be able to accomplish as we together go through this exercise here in this video is that we are able to look at different sections of our life, different activities, different sectors, and take a reflective, meditative stance as we interrogate these areas with gentleness and some honesty. As you'll see, if you have printed out the Wheel of Life from the exercise documents, this wheel is comprised of roughly 10 sections. Some of the sections have subcategories, which we will go through individually, but these 10 large sections are what in this exercise represents a large swath of what makes up our life. And within these categories lie questions that hold a key to our power, a key to our ability to live a satisfied and vibrant and hopeful and optimistic existence that is in alignment with what we consider our power. And throughout this video and this exercise, we will discuss a little bit about that. But without further ado, I'd like you to have the wheel in front of you, either an electronic editable copy or in some cases, and in many preferred cases, a paper copy that you can mark up with pen and ink. Being in front of you, we will start at the very top. I would like to bring your attention to the first category, which we'll discuss today, which is money. And what we're going to do as we engage each of these 10 categories, and we'll start with money, is we're going to ask you about, and when I mean we, you and I are going to be partners in this, is asking about how satisfied are you from 1 to 10 with this aspect. And we'll define the aspects as we go forward, but how satisfied are you? And I suppose it's worth exploring for a minute. This idea of satisfaction is not happiness. It's not an objective measure. It's really how okay are you with how this currently is existing within your life? How okay are you with this aspect? Does it cause you stress? Does it cause you anxiety? Does it cause you trouble? Does it bring you joy? These are the different facets that go into that okay question. One, of course, I often say is like it's on fire. It's an absolute mess. It causes a great deal of anxiety. It's something that you persistently think about every day, and it has some worry. 10 is this absolute satisfaction, and both 1 and 10 have their own philosophies, which we will engage at another time in another video. But today, what I'd like for you to ask as we go through this from 1 to 10 is how satisfied are you with this particular aspect? So let's look at money. Money is asking kind of a straightforward question, which is, how satisfied are you with the amount of money you have in your life? How satisfied are you with the amount of money you have in your life? Take a minute, and from 1 to 10, just mark down your first inclination. If you overthink it too much, you might start making edits that reflect what you want it to be, but not that initial instinctual response. Okay, very good. And you'll notice that maybe 10 seconds was given to that reflection. This is kind of the pace that we're going to set throughout the rest of this exploration. You'll notice to the right of money is the word finance. And finance, of course, means many things to many people, but here in this context, we're going to have it mean or hold the following question, which is, how satisfied are you with your ability to see money coming in and out of your life, and that you feel like you have some directive control over how that money is moving, that you feel like you have an ability to control the movement of money coming in and out of your life, and that you have some awareness out of it. So amalgamate that question, and how satisfied are you with the category of finance in your life right now? Okay, very good. Shifting now to career. This is a challenging topic, and maybe actually every one of these is a challenging topic at various times. But career has this connotation in the American society that is it's kind of heavy, actually, and it causes some stress in people because we may have jobs, we might have activities, we might have labors, but career, no, that's for others. But in this category, what I want you to see this word career being used as, or being described as, is career is asking you, how satisfied are you that in your days you are doing what you feel you should be doing? How satisfied, from 1 to 10, are you that you are doing in your daily life the things that you feel in this life that you should be doing? All right. Very good. It's hard. And remember, in our group and individual work, we will continue to go through these and gently work with these categories additionally. The next category is the category of work. And of course, it feels, and in many definitive ways, it's quite similar to career, I suppose. But in work, what we are looking at is we are looking at this idea of responsibility, this idea of the labors that we are obligated to complete. And so, as I sort of outline within my mind, and I try to cast for others who do this exercise, when you hear the following question, what I want you to think about is hold in your hands all of the things that you, quote unquote, have to do. That if you didn't do them, they would fall apart. That they are in some way uniquely your work. All right, do you see that in kind of in your mind's eye? All right, very good. What I want you to do is I want you to take a big breath, close your eyes, imagine you're holding this work. Look at it in your mind's eye and ask, how satisfied am I with the work that I have to do? The amount, the duration, the challenge, the struggle. Look at that which is within your hands. How satisfied, from 1 to 10, are you with the work that you have to do in this life at this time right now? Okay, very good. You know, this particular thing that has come to me is that I just want to also highlight and affirm that these numbers will change. They might even change in the course of a single day. What we're doing is we're taking a simple snapshot in time, a reference point that can be utilized as we go through these exercises deeper and deeper into our own reflections and meditations. So if any of this causes you anxiety, simply place a gentle hand in the center of your chest and say, this is but a moment and all things will change. This can be worked on too. Moving forward now, we have the categories of health and fitness, and such important categories, of course, especially when we start talking about self-care. You'll notice the category of health is divided into 2 letters. You have the letter P and you have the letter E as in echo. And these stand for physical health and what we would define as emotional health. And of course, there are many, many, many more subcategories that we can play here. But let's look at physical health real quick. And the essential question that physical health is asking, and I like this phrase, it's rather straightforward, and it is, and we can play with it. But the question is how satisfied are you with how your body physically feels? How satisfied are you with how your body physically feels from 1 to 10? And if you need to contextualize that, physically feels today. Okay, very good. I give a little more time on that one. It's an important one for reflection because we have to kind of check in with our body and say, hey, how are we doing? The next one is, of course, very sensitive. In the work that we do here, paradigms of emotional health are more or less squarely within the realm of those who are engaging in the psychological work. And in our work, we are engaged in the spiritual, and we go to quite quite large lengths to cut these spaces and to have these places that we can do this spiritual work. And so we ask this, but you have to understand that when we ask the following question, that it is not a diagnostic tool. When we talk about emotional health, it's a mirror, and we're looking at this mirror, and from the answers that come from this mirror, some additional options might be present for additional care, referrals to those who can engage in the present work of psychology and do this. Okay, a lot of context. So here we go. The question is, how satisfied are you with the emotions that exist within your being right now? Look within. Close your eyes. Feel. How you doing? Hey everyone. How are we doing? From 1 to 10, how satisfied are we with the emotions that are currently within our being? Yeah, I like that question a lot. But we have 7 more, so here we go. So the next category you'll see is the category of fitness, and I always liked fitness, and you know I've done this exercise a couple hundred times over the last 5 or 6 years, and occasionally we'll work with people, we being me in this plural universe. I will work with people who are very quite fit in some sort of athletic way, and they think they understand this question, and in some ways we have this idea of what fitness is. But I want to challenge this here, and I want you to think about fitness as not about being particularly muscular or particularly athletic. What we're saying here with fitness is, how satisfied are you that you can move your body how you want to move your body? How satisfied are you that you can move your body how you want to move your body? 1 to 10. What do you think? All right. You know, I just feel compelled to say and reiterate, we will go over all these again as we go forward. The next category you'll see if you have a version 3 Wheel of Life is that the categories are called fun and recreation. I'm not particularly keen on these 2 words, and soon we will have a version 4 that reflects what I feel is the very essence of what we're trying to get at with these 2 words. And so if you'd like and you have a pen, I'd like you to change fun to the word joy and recreation to the word rest. And it doesn't mean that fun and recreation aren't correct, but what I want to get at is the flavor of what joy means and what saying rest means compared to recreation. So we're going to start with, we're going to shift this a little bit. Let's start with joy before we get into rest. Joy is a word, isn't it? It's a complicated bundle of things there, and it means different things, of course, to different people. But what I want you to imagine are the times of levity, the times where you are laughing, the times that you watch the clock and its hands spin and time is melting away because you are in a moment that gives you maybe some happiness, some lightheartedness, where you are very okay, and you know it. You feel it. You know that this moment is good. And maybe I'm too complicated here with this, but I want you to think about those times that bring you laughter. And let us attach this word joy to that, perhaps. So the question: how satisfied are you, from 1 to 10, with the presence, maybe quality, maybe quantity, of joy within your life? How satisfied are you with the presence of joy right now in your life? Yeah, that can be a tough one. That can be a really hard one. And in many ways, it's hard because we, I'm going to say we as Americans, but I've seen this all over the place. We work hard to pursue our dreams, and we have obligations, some of our choice and some of maybe not our choice, that we have to do in this life. And man, they are burdens, and they seem to sometimes calcify our ability to have that joy. And we'll get into this. And as we talk about sleep and we talk about rest, there's a reason why these two are so close to each other. So now look at rest. Rest is is such a beautiful idea. If any of you are parents, you'll maybe giggle at how rest seems to vanish as we tend to little ones. But this idea of rest is really asking you to think about the times where you are able to disconnect. In some ways, although it's not completely opposite to the wheel in terms of some polarity, rest is countervailing work. So remember all those things you held in your hand? Rest are those times where you are able to gently set them down and then do whatever you need to do to regain energy, to not have to fulfill the obligations which are work. And again, this shows up for different people and in different ways, but imagine those times, feel that moment when you're able to deeply release and feel okay in a quiet and restful way. So, from 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with the presence, quality, and maybe even amount of rest that you currently experience right now at this point in your life? Okay. Again, feeling compelled to over-explicate is this. I just have to say, be gentle, please. Rest is one of those things that is just like a perennial hunt. We're constantly looking for how to do that better, and trying to figure out how to be both ambitious but also get the needed self-care. And this is the magic of this wheel of life, which I appreciate so much. Is let's go into environment, and we'll see how this connects to it. You'll see in environment we have two categories, notated by the letter C on the left and the letter E on the right. In this version 3, anyways. And what environment is sort of pointing at are the physical spaces that we exist in, the physical spaces we work in, the physical spaces we rest in, the physical spaces we play in. You can kind of see how this is coming together in a way. And to explain what environment is in regards to this wheel, I want you to imagine a bird's nest. And I want you to imagine you are the bird that has built this nest. And your nest is what you will consider your close environment, notated by the letter C on the left-hand side. And I want you to imagine wherever that place is within your close environment, where you are able to rest, where you are able to feel that you are secure, that you are safe enough to lay your head down, go to sleep at night, where you're able to be vulnerable. Now, that nest could be an entire home. It could be a particular place, but it could also be as small as maybe even a bedroom, maybe even a bed, maybe even under your blankets. I really want you to see your nest as expansive or contracted as you feel is necessary for that place of safety, where you're able to really fly to this place and be okay, from the many storms that come through the forest, metaphorically. So from 1 to 10, how satisfied are you that you are able to be safe and secure in your nest, and that your nest is able to provide for you what you need it to provide? Okay. So the next category here is continuing this metaphor of the bird's nest and flying through the forest, is the external environment. And the external environment is, I want you to imagine literally everywhere outside of your nest that you move your body. Maybe a typical day, whatever typical means to you, but imagine where you fly to. All right, the environment that you are soaring through, that you are foraging, that you're making connections, that you're finding food and abundance, all these metaphorical symbols within your external environment that you move your body through in order to live a fulfilled life. All right, I'm talking literally about the physical environment that you live in. Imagine that place. This is the forest around the bird's nest, around your nest. And the question here that we sort of try to poke at in various metaphorical ways is, how satisfied are you with the external environment around you and its ability to provide what you need an external environment to provide for you to live a full and vibrant life? How satisfied are you with your external environment's ability to provide for you in the way you need an external environment to provide? All right, very good. The next topic is community. And I mean, I have to be honest, I sort of oscillate in how I approach community. And I think how I want to poke at it, and I will make several attempts at this, so humor me as we enter into this, is community is asking, at its core, who are your people? Who are your people? And you'll notice the tenor and flavor of this is a little different than the others, and will be different from those that precede this as well. And when I ask who are your people, I'm not asking like, oh, who's your friend Jim and your mother Sarah or whatever. No. I'm asking, as a category, who do you connect with? What kinds of people are you connected with? Do you find that when you're among them, you say, aha, these are my people. I feel understood. I feel like I have found my pack, my herd. There are so many different ways to look at this metaphorically. But I mean, the basic question is, who are your people? And actually, so for the exercise, what I'd like you to write is a couple names of these categories, and do your best, and we'll kind of poke at it as we go forward, because it is a complicated and complex question. So think about it for a couple seconds. Who are your people? Okay, very good. And, I failed to mention that you can write that in the white space just beneath that word community. So now I want you to look at these names, whether you have one or several, and I want you to put a number beside that name, the title of those people, and I want you to ask, how satisfied are you with your connection, the quality of your connection to your people? How satisfied are you at this time with the quality of the connection that you have with your people? From 1 to 10. Okay, very good. Moving on. So the next category is family and friends. And, I warn you, this is a tricky one, because this is where a lot of different things are distilled and kind of boiled into the same soup here. And you might notice that friends seems like a lot similar, or very similar, to what your community is. And so what's the distinction, I have to get asked? Well, what I want you to think about is your people are not necessarily like the people that you are dearly connected to in terms of friends and friendship. And it's kind of difficult to try to explain this, but I'll do my best here too. Community is very broad. This is your wider clan. It could be the people that you want to associate with as a larger group. Where when we look at friendship, what we're looking at are the people you run side by side with. And these don't necessarily mean that you're always in direct alignment with your views as your people might be, your community might be. But these are the people that nonetheless you find yourself in association with. And in particular, I want you to think about friends as not individual people, but amalgamated as the idea of friendship. And so here you go. Here's the question. How satisfied are you with the presence and quality and, that's good. I'll stop there. The presence and quality of friendship within your life. How satisfied are you with the presence and quality of friendship in your life right now? All right, very good. Next is family. And family is an entire thing in and of itself. And many of these might be, of course. But for simplicity's sake, you'll see that there's an E and a C. E means extended family, and C means close family. And a really important part of this is to understand that family in some way is chosen. Now, we have blood family, of course, that we're genetically related to. But we also have people within our lives that are so interwoven within our existence that even though they might not be genetically tied to us, that they're more than friends. They are kin in many ways, and that the actions that they take and the actions that within our dynamic interplay, the relationship that we have with them, really do shape and form the flow of our lives. So actually, we're going to start now with the extended family or the external family, but the close family. So again, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes briefly, and I want you to imagine this idea of who is in your trusted, dear inner circle, the people that see you, the people that really see you and that you allow yourself to be seen by, the people that are in your inner circle. All right, now see them. You don't need to necessarily write them down, but I want you to see them. And I want you to ask yourself as you visualize who is on your inner circle, how satisfied are you with the relationships that you have with those on your inner circle? All right. As I sit here, I just think about all the dialogues, all the conversations around how sometimes really hard these beautiful and loving connections are with those that we allow on our inner circle. And I just want to hold space that at this point in this inquiry, you might be feeling a little tired, because this is not easy. It's looking in the mirror. In some ways, the mirror looks back. and shows us things that we're like, oh, I'm not necessarily ready for that just yet. And by the time we hit that inner circle, I just want to acknowledge that you might be feeling some of that. We're like, okay, this is this is hard. And if you're not, that's okay too. But it's definitely a possibility. Okay, so then we have shifting now. We have that external or that extended family. And what I mean by this in this definition is not necessarily like who are your cousins and aunts, although that could be the case. But I want you to imagine the people that are more than friends in your life. They've clearly they've evolved. They've graduated a little outside of friendship, but they're not necessarily on the most trusted of inner circles. They rest in this borderland, very precious, very dear, but they're not on the inner circle, and they're not just friends. They're something more, and that might mean a lot of things to a lot of people. But I want you to envision that borderland, where these people are more than friends, but not necessarily within the inner circle. And the question is, just the same as close, is how satisfied are you with the connections, the quality, the dynamics that you have with those people in the inner circle? How satisfied are you with your relationships to the people you have on that external circle, rather? Yeah. All right. Are you ready? This next one's the big one. And maybe I make too much of a deal out of this, but let me tell you, sometimes we get a little red in the face, and this can be a really hard one to look at. And what I want to say, and this should have been mentioned earlier, which is the information that we put down on this wheel of life is really, really, really sensitive stuff. If you happen to be in a relationship where you're having maybe some struggles, you're having some challenges, you might find yourself in some contentious places, what you are going to be asked here to do is lightly look at that. Now, why I'm saying this is because you're going to be marking a number down, and I just want to give a little warning to make sure you keep this wheel of life really, really, really private and secret and safe. All right, this is the one ring of power here. Be careful who you show it to. And the reason might be somewhat obvious. Your partner might not like the fact that they're an 8 and not a 9, or a 9 and not a 10, or maybe a much lower number, and they might take umbrage at that. They might not really like that. And it might turn into a source of conflict itself, or at least a very uncomfortable conversation that you were really not intending to have as you do this work to grow and tend to your own energy and power. So this is a warning. Keep this wheel secret and safe until you are ready to show it and to have a dialogue about it in a time that you're ready to have that. You really don't want your partner coming across this when you're not ready to engage that. And maybe another thing that just came to my mind, don't try to avoid, if possible, leaving this out in a place where you can signal to your partner you're displeased with them by giving them low numbers on your wheel here and letting them see that might be a little harmful. Anyway, we'll get to that, and you might notice that I've experienced this with people a number of times, and sometimes even myself, as my own partner can look at some of the things and say, "Hey, what is this?" All right, enough to do. This category is called partnership and love. Big topic. The 3 letters you see are F, C, and L, which stands for friendship or friend, companionship, companion, and the lover. These 3 aspects are related to the 3 essential components that comprise what we call love, or or in the Princess Bride way, true love, and there's beautiful philosophies, sometimes even nearly theological in its essence, about what happens when these three components are in alignment. But that's not for here. What I want to bring your attention to is friendship. The friend is the person that you share your thoughts with, that you share your ideas with, that you want to talk to, that you want to explore things with. This is a person that you share your sacred truth with. So, looking at this here, and without getting into too much contextualization and just going right at it, how satisfied are you with the presence of friendship in your life right now? How satisfied are you that you can share with an individual your sacred truth, and that they will hear you, and that you are safe sharing that truth with them? For this person holds the archetype of the friend, holds the power of friendship. How satisfied are you from 1 to 10? All right. Moving forward, we have the companion. And the companion is in some ways much simpler, because what we are looking at is our satisfaction with being in the presence of someone who helps us to feel deeply accepted, that we are okay being us as we are. We do not need to have pretense. We do not need to have theater. We do not need to wear particularly elaborate and adorned masks to be okay. That we can show up as we somewhat naturally manifest, or more easily manifest, in a form that's most easy for us, most peaceful, and that we are okay being in their presence. And in fact, they are okay being in our presence. For this is what companionship means, that we can share space together and be okay doing so. So now look at this companionship category and imagine, who is it that provides this role to you most prominently? Now, it could be your spouse or significant other or partner, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. For we are only looking at who fulfills this archetype and our satisfaction with it. So from 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with the presence of the companion archetype within your life right now? All right. Last but not least in this very important category is the aspect of the lover. Now, what I always say to each of the people that I do this work with is that if you would like to skip this category because it will create some severe consternation and trouble for you, you of course may. And in fact, you may skip any category that you feel you are not ready to answer. That itself is information. That itself is something that can be worked with. But if we wish to look at this, here is the question that we are looking at. The lover holds the power of safe physical touch. This doesn't necessarily mean sex, although it can. It doesn't necessarily mean romantic intimacy, although it can. What we are looking at is the satisfaction with the presence of safe physical touch in our life right now. Now, an important part of this is if you do not have a romantic partner, if you do not have this safe physical touch being done by another person, but you feel okay with that, well, then you can be satisfied with the presence of safe physical touch because you're not distressed that it's not present, that you don't have a lover. And sometimes we work with just we as a healing profession in many ways, we work with people who might have partners who are deceased or are not particularly concerned about intimacy, physical intimacy, and are quite okay either being celibate or single or just in this place where they're not engaging in that. So just because you don't have a partner doesn't mean you have to give it a 1. That's not it. But what I want you to focus on is, does the lack of or the presence of your person that you engage in touch with, does that have the qualities of being safe physical touch? Do you feel safe in that exchange? And how satisfied are you with the presence of safe physical touch in your life? Okay, very good. The next category is one of my favorites because I enjoy the scholarly pursuit and engaging in lore and knowledge, which is actually what you are generating now is information that brings us into study. So you'll see growth and learning. And learning is a really interesting category for me because what it asks is how satisfied are you as you imagine all the information, all the knowledge that is zooming in and around you and is I can imagine like this vortex swirling around our minds of all the things that our consciousness is aware of. And this is information. These are stories. These are things that are informing our daily life. And what I want you to ask yourself is how satisfied am I that I am learning what I need and want to be learning at this time in my life right now? From 1 to 10, how satisfied am I that I am learning what I need and want to be learning at this time in my life? All right, very good. Why we start with learning is because from learning comes telos. Learning comes growth. And growth is what we do with this learning. Okay, so we've learned this, now what do we do? I often speak about this idea of what do we do when we see the divine? How do we live our life after we've been inspired, after we have the mystical experience, after we've seen God? What do you do once you've seen God? This is the classic question in some ways, is because you've gained an incredible insight into something. Now, how do you grow from it? And so what growth asks us is how satisfied are we that we are able to take what it is that we are learning and that we are growing in the way we feel we should and need to and want to grow. How satisfied are you that you are growing in the way that you feel you should be growing? From 1 to 10. Okay, take a big stretch. Ooh. You're almost there. But we have one last but very important category. You'll see that it is called spirituality. Now, this very word makes people bristle occasionally who have struggles with another word called religion. Now, what I want to say is this is not the place for us to wrangle with our feelings around religion. And in fact, relegare, the binding things that constrain us to principles of how we worship the divine and we engage its power, is not what spirituality is. They are not synonymous, religion and spirituality. The word spirit, spiritual, it comes from this Latin word spiritus, to breathe. And so how we kind of get at this idea of spirituality with a wide net is the idea of breathing. How do we breathe into our life? How do we have the freedom to breathe and feel like we have the freedom to live the life that we want to live? So, the question for spirituality as you look at this category is, how satisfied are you that you are able to breathe in and freely live the life that you want to live? Once more, how satisfied are you that you're able to breathe in and freely live the life that you want to live? 1 to 10. Okay. Well done. You did it. It's not easy. I promise you it's not easy. But you have done the first step to examining your wheel of life. And now what you could do is, if you would like, count up the categories. So you'll notice that spirituality only has one chunk of the pie, and so whatever your number is on top. And as you go through, you will notice that money and finance is a split category. So take the two numbers, divide it by 2. You have that category's number that you can put it on top. And what we will do is we'll go through these numbers and we'll get a total. Now the total is not your grade in life. Please don't look at it that way. Although we are literally taught to look at it that way from our the structures of our schooling, but that's another rant another time. But what we will do in the next exercise is we will look at each of these numbers, whether they're a whole number or a half number, and we will look at is how can we improve that number, that satisfaction, that echo of satisfaction by just a little bit. How do we go from 8 to 8.5? How do we go from 3 to 3.5? A small incremental improvement. And that is what the next video will be about. That is what the next exercises will be. And as we engage in group and individual work in these spiritual reflective exercises, this is how we incrementally improve our spirituality and our satisfaction with how we are living this life. Is that piece by piece, we can slowly, durably, stably improve our satisfaction by growing the individual small parts of each one of these categories. I don't want to make you a promise, but I've done this for a while and I have a lot of interesting data, and I can tell you that a 10-point increase, really 1 point in each of these categories, very manageable, is a different life. And it's remarkable how the quality of our satisfaction as we work to improve it can really dramatically change how we perceive our existence and how we breathe in to this manifested life. So I want to say, well done. You did it. It's not easy and it's taken some time, but let us use this tool, place it in the quiver, the kolchan, as one of your strelka, as one of these arrows, and we will go forward from there. I want to say again, well done, and see you next time. Bye-bye.